Which mandate would be suited in the Ministry of Trade, Industry, and Cooperatives? Are we now going to switch our mandate and then take it to the Ministry of Health? Is now Ministry of Health going to be in charge of trade issues, industrial issues? The clause should be amended to Minister responsible for industry. This is especially true with the exclusion of the clauses on awareness, rehabilitation, and treatment of addicts in the previous version of the bill. Honorable Chair, what about the application of licenses? Clause 5, subsection 2. A person who intends to sell alcoholic drinks shall apply to the relevant authority for license. And clause 22 also goes ahead and says, the prohibition of manufacturing or sale of alcoholic drinks without a license. Honorable Chair and honorable members, manufacturers currently pay for numerous licenses, and obtaining additional licenses is going to be more expensive and time-consuming. Again, what are we trying to cure? Application of multiple licenses is a complex and costly process for business, and each license typically comes with its own set of requirements, fees, and renewal costs. With the cost of doing business significantly increasing, the business of manufacture or sale of alcohol will become extremely unprofitable and taking away the opportunity for contribution to the national economy, not just the alcohol sector, to the national economy. Honorable Chair and honorable members, we haven't added something in this paper that you should be aware of. Our members of the manufacturing sector are slowly moving out of Uganda. We have evidence of over 41 factories setting up in Tanzania, originating from Uganda. We have others on the border of Congo who are thinking it is better to produce elsewhere and bring to Uganda. Committee Chair of Trade, Industry, and Tourism, you should be aware of that. We are losing industries. This is going to contribute to more loss of industries. And then we will come and say, we don't have enough money, enough taxes. What will we do? Again, go back to these factories and say, please give us more excise duty, give us more VAT. What are we really trying to cure? These clauses are redundant and should be removed or referred to the Licensing Act, Chapter 101. Honorable Chair, the issue of radius restriction as a prerequisite for the grant of a license. Clause 5, subsection 7, business premises considered suitable if they are not within 400 meters of a school, a health unit, a residential area, place of worship, and B, not situated at a fuel station. Seriously? So, this is what we are saying. If you are a bar in my small residence in Machindi, so all that stretch from the roundabout of Entebbe all the way to Salama Road, please close and go home. This is a residential area. So get out. We don't need you. Are we really willing to kill that whole economy? 2, so don't sell anywhere near a fuel station. So last time I checked the Constitution, we say we're a liberal economy. So now we are moving away from liberalism and going back to communism. Really? Considering Uganda's physical planning layout, which places social amenities close to one another, this provision is impractical. Businesses already authorize building plans. The bill shouldn't attempt to impose an unforeseeable requirement. In addition, by confining operations to a restricted radius, companies may face challenges in recruiting, retaining, retaining qualified employees, leading to potential skill shortages and decreased productivity. So there are over 50,000 bars in the country, and they are all nearly situated in residential areas. So we close all of them. And so the question is, if you're not supposed to be within 400 meters, where should we place the bars? We ask. You're not supposed to be near a school. Don't please be near a place of residence. Don't be near a fuel station. Where should we be? All right. Clause 5, subsection 7A and B should be deleted. Restrictions of hours of sale. Section 14, subsection 1. A licensee shall not sell an alcoholic drink, all native drink, before 5 or 17 hours and after 22 hours on working days, and B, 12 hours and after 0 hours on public holidays and weekends. Ladies and gentlemen, you are all supporters of Premier League. Manchester United, I hear everyone shouting Manchester United, Liverpool, and all these things. Those football matches always end after 10 o'clock. So, at 10 exactly, at half time, bartender, close. Even if you're not in a bar, in a restaurant, close. Don't sell any alcohol as people are watching football. Go home. Subsection 14, part 2 says, notwithstanding subsection 1, a licensee who operates a supermarket, there we go again, a depot, may sell alcohol drinks between 10 and 10 hours, that is 10 in the morning and 22 hours. Thereafter, sorry, don't sell any alcohol. Colleagues, we are going to increase gender violence of a nature you may not be able to sort. And COVID has shown us that. Chair and honorable members, you want men to start drinking from home with kids at home? Really? And then we shall be fighting alcoholism later on? Let the men go. Let the women go. Come back when you have finished your business and leave us in peace at home. Let home be our sanctuary. Let our homes be our castles. Let our homes be the places where our children can be raised without the fear of seeing their father drunk, and they know what is causing the drunkenness. You go and drink if you must drink. Come back home. Go straight into your bed. But let us not show the kids where alcohol is coming from. They will then say, just like the European kids, where does milk come from? From the fridge. We are soon going to tell kids, where does alcohol come from? Under daddy's bed. We don't want that. The time restrictions will require that manufacturers set up multiple facilities to ensure other value chain players are effectively served. This duplication of infrastructure will significantly raise operating costs, including rent, utilities, maintenance, and transportation costs for particularly the employees. Over 1.3 million jobs were created by the alcohol industry, and so forth. Also, the economic significance of the night economy to the national treasury cannot be underestimated. So we are telling tourists who come here, and we are busy driving this agenda of bringing in tourists, that, oh boss, in Uganda, do not dare drink alcohol before 5 o'clock. And if you dare drink alcohol at 10 o'clock, you are liable and culpable. Colleagues, we have all been tourists. I must say I drank some wine in Dubai. And here we are telling people, don't drink after 10. Your tourist numbers will plummet. Ask Zanzibar. Right now as we speak. Ask them. And then, remember the 53% debt to GDP ratio? I'll stop on that. The clause should be deleted. Subsection 14.3 talks about that it shall not apply to a person who sells alcoholic drinks in a licensed tourist camp, okay, nightclub. And section 14.4, a person who contravenes subsection 1 commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a fine not exceeding 1,000 currency points, which is 20 million. Really? Imprisonment for 10 years because of a drink. I want to know what then the penalty will be for killing someone, especially that person who knocked yesterday. A whole other, is it LC5 knocking dead. That one, what will you do to him? That one will not be even hung. That one we should tear piece by piece. Oh, that one we should forgive. Okay. Chair, regulation on advancement of alcoholic drinks. Clause 17.1. A person shall not advertise alcoholic drinks using information that is misleading or deceptive. Subsection 2. The minister shall by regulation made under this act regulate advertisement of alcohol drinks. 3. A person who contravenes subsection 1 commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a fine not exceeding 1,000 currency points, another 20 million shillings. Or imprisonment for a period of not exceeding 10 years. All because of alcohol. I want us, Honorable Chair and members, to go and study the act, the same act of 1921 in the United States of America and the effect it did. For those of you who may want a short story, look for the story on the famous gangster, Al Capone. That act is what brought about Al Capone. And the thousands, or hundreds of thousands of young people who died because of selling of alcohol underground. We don't want more violence in our country. If people are already killing people just because they want to, broad daylight someone is shooting a honorable chief of a clan during broad daylight, you want us to go further and have alcohol as another drug, sell it underground, cause more trouble. Chair, this is tough. Clause 17 is not necessary, and there is already a regulatory framework in place under the Uganda National Bureau of Standards and under the Uganda Communications Commission advertising rules. This clause should be deleted. The status quo should be maintained and advertisements left under the mandate of UCC. I'm about to conclude, Chair. Packaging of alcoholic drinks in packages of less than 500 milliliters. Yes. Honorable Chair and members, let me show you what 500 milliliters is. This is 500 milliliters. Now, this is the minimum, Honorable Chair. Okay? Today, the spirits are sold in 200 milliliters. Okay? You are telling these people, 200 milliliters is not bad enough. Please buy 500. Increase the size. Because it's more expensive to buy. Colleagues, the person who drafted this clause has never drunk alcohol. This one doesn't know the effect of having alcohol in your pocket or in your house, which is half open. 200 milliliters, the person will sip and go and do other things. 500! You will have drunkards at the workplace. Syria.
Whereas we are talking about alcohol, the presenter is using a bottle of Ruenzori. Say this drink, and this may work against Ruenzori as a drink, because some pastors may stop taking Ruenzori thinking it is alcohol.
Apologies. Apologies. Allow me to clarify that, Chair. 500 milliliters are what fit in this bottle of Rwenzori. It is not the content of this bottle. Please strike that off the record. Honorable Chair and honorable members, packaging of alcoholic drinks. So the provision, first of all, is inconsistent with the weights and measures rule of 2020, which permits alcoholic products to be packaged in containers of a minimum of 200 milliliters. Chair, packaging of alcoholic drinks in packages of less than 500 milliliters, subsection 1, a person shall not pack or import an alcoholic drink in a package of less than 500 milliliters. This further mandate to legislate on packaging, formats and sizes of alcoholic products already sits with UNBS and the Weights and Measures Act of 103 and regulations. In addition, there is a possibility of increased costs associated with adopting the new packaging proposals. New materials, designs, and product processes can be expensive, required significant investment in equipment, training, and research. This can strain the budget of a manufacturer, potentially affecting their overall revenue and tax contribution, and may I add, and the potential and propensity to exit the Ugandan market and go to a much better place like Tanzania. By the way, Honorable Chair, the incentives of the Tanzanian government are extremely appetizing, and they are very quick at giving those incentives. If you want land for manufacture, I can give you 2 weeks. Try it in Uganda. Packaging of alcoholic drinks in sachets and plastic bottles. Section Clause 26, packaging of alcoholic drinks in sachets or plastic bottles. Now here we go. A person shall not pack, import, or sell alcoholic drinks in sachet, plastic bottles, or such other form as may be prescribed by the minister by regulations under this act. Wow. A person who contravenes this section commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a fine not exceeding 1,000 currency points. May I recall? 20 million shillings. All imprisonment not exceeding 5 years. Colleagues, so now we're supposed to package alcohol in bottles, not plastic of nature. So let us go back to the other bottles. Chair, they are imported. Again, sending money out of this country to import something we can produce in Uganda. What is wrong with us in Uganda? Where is the national conspiracy? Where is it? Create jobs elsewhere, import as much as we can, don't export at all. Where is the national conspiracy? What is so bad with plastic bottles? But no, let's import the bottles because we can't produce them in the country. This clause should be deleted and the status quo maintained. Last but not least, savings provision. A person who immediately before commencement of this act was in accordance with any law licensed to manufacture, for sale, import, and or erect, establish, or operate a factory for the manufacture for sale of beer, all alcoholic beverages, all sale of liquor, shall within 12 months from the date of commencement of this act comply with this provision of this act. Honorable Chair, now allow me, with all permission, to ask this honorable committee whether any one of them are in the field of manufacturing, or what it takes to set up a manufacturing plant, or what it takes to change a line in a manufacturing plant, or what it takes to set up and change a mold in a manufacturing plant. And Chair, allow me to bet, if I gave anyone here 1 billion Uganda shillings to set up a manufacturing entity or do something else, I can say 5 to 1 every one of us will rather set up something else than a manufacturing entity. Because it's easier. It is much easier. Chair, Honorable Chair, when you are A1's taxes, where do they go first? Factory. It is there. It's not going anywhere. I can't close shop today to tomorrow and run away. And we are making the making of factories even harder. The Baganda people say, Eyatuloga. The 12 months period under the provision of clause 38 of the bill is too short to ensure full compliance of this sector. Unless, of course, you have never invested in manufacturing. You must bring the money together. You must order for the new line. It must come on time. I must install the line. And I ask again, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, again, what are we trying to cure? A more reasonable transition of this may be 36 months. In conclusion, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, from UMA's perspective, Uganda is part of the East African community. It is important that we seek to regulate and let us legislate in such a way that Uganda is not made to be a supermarket of East Africa, but rather the industrial giant of the EAC and the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Honorable Chair, may I report to you that when we negotiated the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, Uganda was supposed to be the topmost beneficiary in the East African region. Go and check. Get the report from UNDP. Get the report from UNSAID. Get the report from World Bank. They all made a report showing that if Uganda adhered to the Africa Continental Free Trade Area rules, Uganda would grow the most in the East and Central region. Go check it out. What are we doing? Reverse everything. We don't need to grow. Honorable Chair, we are only growing at 5.6% GDP per capita. No, GDP. But the population, Honorable Chair, is growing at 3.2%. That is why we're not feeling the money in the pockets. Because we're supposed to be growing at 10, 12%. We are here dwindling with our 5.6, and we are praising each other and tapping each other on the court that we are growing. The health sector will not grow with poor people. We need to make these poor people rich. We need to find jobs for them. We need to make them contribute to this economy. Honorable Chair, how can we have 70% of your economy between Lake Victoria and Lake Choga, Jinja, and the border to Ankole and Bunyoro? This whole small space is responsible for 70% of the economy. 18% in the southwest region and 8% in Bunyoro. The rest of the country is just about 8%. And we want to grow the economy like this? Honorable Chair, this will not work. While taking care of Ugandans' overall well-being, regulate the entire sector, not parts of the sector. Behavior may not necessarily be regulated by law, but rather by constant awareness and sensitization of the effects of the alcoholic consumption. Chair, I beg to submit.
Thank you. Thank you, Uma, for your presentation to this committee. I am going to give time for members to ask questions and seek clarification where they may think they need to. However, I want to ask you, based on your submission, to give us a clear definition of illicit alcohol that you are referring to. I heard Dr. Ezra talking about that, but also it came out very prominently in your presentation, the illicit alcohol that you're talking about. Then number two, In your presentation to the committee, you made reference to several licenses as you are referring to part of the bill and the proposal that has come in the bill. Can you educate this committee about some of these licenses, the several ones that you're referring to, in terms of probably the quantity and what these licenses are? It would be important for us also to know as we analyze this bill and process it. Then you've been making references on the contribution of alcohol to the economy of this country. We are also interested in knowing the volume of alcohol that is being imported and that is being exported. Can you comment a little more clearer on that, if you have statistics as UMA with regards to that? Earlier on, you started by saying we've been importing a lot. What is the status quo now in terms of statistics? That will also help this committee, especially the Trade and Tourism Committee, in analyzing the position that you presented to this committee. Do you have data on alcohol consumption trends in Uganda? We'll also appreciate to have from UMA what your opinion is on that. So let me give time for the members, but before I go to that, the document that you've just been reading through and making your presentation to us on has not been signed on, so we are wondering about the authenticity of the document. All documents that are presented to committees in such sittings must be signed. Proper ownership of the document, because we use them and refer to them as authentic documents for decision makings in the committee. So before our members raise this as a procedural matter, I want to ask that the document should be signed on. So let me proceed to take questions from the honorable members who are present. I start from my extreme left. Honorable, please.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and thank you, the honorable colleagues and the team from UMA. My concerns go back to the bill itself, because I want to believe that the movers of this bill had it at the back of their mind that there's some negative contribution with alcohol consumption when it comes to production and total output of the country. And that relates to the so many youth that get involved in alcohol and cannot get involved in meaningful production that can steer our country to a whole new level. I've been listening to the presentation, but I've not heard critically what is the plan from UMA to prevent our youth from going into that, because that was the concern of the movers of this bill. And when you talked about rather alcohol not being sold after 12, you mentioned Premier League and all that. We have gone to some other countries, just here in the neighborhood, Rwanda. I think they had a similar issue. And they banned alcohol consumption after hours. You do not find places where they are selling alcohol. I do not know how they do it and what are the negative effects of that on their economy. And it would be interesting for us to do some comparative studies and know, is it only in Uganda where we want to do this, or it is happening elsewhere? Otherwise, the movers of this bill, I want to believe their thinking was that alcohol consumption has a negative effect on the production and general productivity of our country. And that it's a little bit lacking in your presentation in terms of how are we going to mitigate that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Yes, Doctor, you.
Thank you very much, Uma, for your submission. I learned a lot about the industry, which you kept on referring to us, as the manufacturing industry generally, and that to me means that you were actually bringing on board so many, things not exactly directly related to the alcohol sector. But that aside, you have mentioned that the industry, the manufacturing industry, the entire manufacturing industry is a major contributor to the health insurance, to the health sector. I'm just wondering the extent to which the alcohol sub-industry, or industry for that matter, is contributing to that. And I'm also wondering whether, the motive, why is the manufacturing industry, in your own words, the manufacturing sector, contributing? Why does it feel obliged to contribute to the health sector in the way it's doing? Have you taken time to follow up, to find out the extent to which it is, impacting on the health sector? What is it giving? At the end of the day, what is the impact of that contribution? And then secondly, you draw on, persistently, you draw on the COVID times, with its restrictions, with its complications that we all are not new to hammer home your point, but we are not regulating for an emergency situation only. We are regulating for normal times as well, and I dare say for completely normal times, the everyday. Can you convince me, give me other examples outside of the COVID abnormal situation? Because it's not yet come home to me, really. I need to be convinced that it does not work because it's because of the reasons that you've stated outside of the COVID times. Thank you.
Thank you. I wonder where your information is going to. Honorable, let's give questions to the presenters. And if you have concerns with them, please raise it. Honorable Tom, do you have questions to the
Yes, I
presenters?
do. Just to appreciate Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, allow me to appreciate the presenter for good elaboration and also showing the nation that for sure, as we are here, we present people. The majority of people we present in our country, especially my people in Chaka Central, will not feel happy when they hear that I'm putting a law and also I'm also participating in such a kind of a law, whereas we have a lot of things to work on in this country. But however, the information I wanted to share with my honorable sister was, you see, when you talk about health factor, consider what we used during COVID, that was sanitizer. And I believe there is part of alcohol in it. And I'm sure for me, I grew up in the village, when you could get a heavy cough, they could give you warrage, crude warrage, to chew your chest. And to me, I think it's a matter of understanding. Is it necessary for us now to regulate about alcohol, whereas we have a lot of things to talk about in this country? Because the widow, the single mothers, the unemployed people, they have shops and they're selling alcohol in the village. Please, let's follow what is hindering our country right now, not alcohol.
Honorable Amoti, the fact that alcohol came on the floor of Parliament and the Speaker referred it to this committee means there are issues related to it. So some of the discussions, we will take them for in-house. Do we have questions to the presenters? Honorable, then final Honorable.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, on page 5, restriction, it's about radius restriction as a prerequisite for the grant of a license. I was trying to see the way our town here is structured. For example, you have Toto opposite Uganda House. From Toto opposite Uganda House, Sheraton Hotel may be less than 400 meters. So would that suggest that now that there is a petrol station nearby, Sheraton Hotel cannot sell alcohol? 2, when you see Grand Imperial Hotel, it's just next to Shell. Would that also suggest, these are questions, would that suggest that now Grand Imperial Hotel will not be allowed to sell alcohol? When you go to Rugogo, Shell Rugogo, it is closed Forest Mall. Would that suggest that no selling of alcohol in Forest Mall and that Rugogo shopping area? Because then I would understand better and see how to move. But the gentleman here is very passionate. I don't know whether he's very passionate about alcohol or about the business or the industry, but I want to thank you for being very passionate. Madam Chair, you talk about how this is going to discourage tourism. I would want to get it more clear on how this alcohol regulation, the manufacture and consumption and sale, is going to discourage tourists, because I know that we get a lot of money from tourism, and so that would inform my mind on whether this is a good law or a bad law. Madam Chair, I am from Buweju County. Buweju County, most of us got education from sale of local alcohol. Waraji, the local brew. Actually, if you move around Mbarara, Bushenyi, the local brew, the good one, is referred to as Buweju, the Buweju one. So, are you also saying that this is going to affect the local brew in areas like Buweju, and my people will not be able to afford fees? Is that what you're suggesting? Because I need to be clear as I take a decision. Madam Chair, he says, I think it is who said that there are competing interests. Local interests and international interests. I just want that to come out, whether you think that there are people who want to fail us locally here, and so that is why that maybe they may be behind such a bill. Finally, you talked about taking alcohol from home. Are you saying taking alcohol from home is very dangerous? That if people continue taking alcohol from home, it will increase rape, defilement, and what's the relationship between alcohol and defilement and rape? Because I want to know that relationship for purposes of taking this very serious decision. Otherwise, Madam Chair, I think we may need to do some benchmarking and see what Kampala means at night. We may need to, as a committee, visit some of these bars. I mean, drive around Kampala at around 11 p.m. or 10 p.m. and we see whether there is serious business at night or these manufacturers are not being honest. We need to move around Kampala and see. Because some of us, the members, have never moved around at night. So we may communicate from a point of ignorance. The only time some of us go at night is when we have overnight in our churches. So when you listen to us, please be mindful that some of us are born again, that some of us don't even know what you mean by alcohol. Maybe you may need to even show them how it looks like, so that the ignorance of what happens at night, the ignorance of what alcohol is, may not be a basis for defeating such interests like you are advancing. So some of these things we need to be clear about them. I want to thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Aga.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and apologies for coming in a bit late. Honorable Chair, let me first put a disclaimer that me personally, I don't take alcohol. But before I seek clarification here, let me just make this small comment. I don't think, for me now I'm working, that as I'm working now I can take alcohol. I don't think those casual laborers who are now working on shambas, tea shambas, sugar canes, are taking alcohol. I think one of the reasons as to why our young men, mostly, the young population, take alcohol, it is because they are jobless. Because for me now, I can't take it. Reason, I am working. Equally, those drivers, those taxi drivers, those border boarders, our colleagues here, the journalists can't take it now because they are working. However, the question I wanted to ask here, I read the two documents and I just wanted to seek clarification whether it is based on scientific survey, because the document of Casita, they haven't yet presented, because I wanted to relate them in vis-a-vis, then I will wait for their time.
Proceed on UMA only.
They present, no, Madam Chair, I will pose a question after Casita, because the figures I wanted, the statistics vary. For UMA, it is talking about 150 direct jobs, which we may lose. And then Casita is talking about 3 million jobs. So I will wait for Casita and ask at once.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Uma, for your submissions. In your submissions, you've questioned whether it is possible to legislate human behavior. And I wanted to find out from you, are we saying that thieves can continue to steal, rapists can continue to rape because it is human behavior and we cannot legislate about it? So I want to know from you that. Secondly, in your submissions, you've rejected the clauses on licensing, on the sale. You've rejected the clauses on advertisement. You've rejected the clauses on the time of sale, which seeks to regulate consumption. Could we say that you have rejected the bill itself? And if you're saying that, does it mean therefore, for example, on the time of consumption, you would want it to be open? In other words, even at this point in time, one can be served alcohol in this meeting. Is that what you're trying to say as Uganda Manufacturers Association? Thirdly, I know you have some of your stakeholders are from the medical sector. Are you saying that this is also their position? I know there are those that are involved in manufacturing of medicines. They are also involved in supplies and matters related to health, on non-communicable diseases, cancers, hypertension. Are you saying that UMA's position represents even the position of that pharmaceutical manufacturer who is making drugs for cancers, making drugs for non-communicable diseases? We want you to come out clearly on that. You've talked about the negative impact. First of all, on self-regulation. Self-regulation means there is self-monitoring, there is self-enforcement, and you've indicated that that is something you've been implementing as an entity. Could you share with us some of the enforcement measures that you've possibly taken or put in place from the time you began the self-regulatory arrangements? As I wind up, you've been talking about the negative effects, and we know that there are big economies, there are medium economies, there are also small economies that have legislation that restrict alcohol consumption sell, including developed countries, middle-income countries? Are you saying Uganda is so different that, you know, this just cannot work for us? But also recalling that we've ever come up with regulations on the packaging for alcohol. We'll come up with the regulations. Taxes are also regulations. We've come up with them before. Perhaps you could give us more data on whether those had negative impacts and which are those companies that collapsed when the packaging legislations came in and possibly the excise duties came in as far as that is concerned. You've of course been relating a lot of your, you know, effects on the alcohol, if you take it at home. I wanted to know, are those your experiences or your reporting observations? Thank you.
May you proceed to respond to the questions that were raised?
Thank you, Chair and honorable members. I want to be brief because most of the articulation you've already heard of. Number one, I want to answer to the question of what amounts to illicit. Here, in our view, we are talking about non-standardized, the alcohol that has not met formal standards as per the requirement. Now, in this case, we are talking about UNBS. But in respect to trading, to the business, we have two forms of illicit. We have got the local alcohol that is manufactured here and has never been taken to the lab to test and say these are the ingredients. So we refer to that as local illicit. But we have got again illicit, non-standardized alcohol that is coming out of the country through proliferations, especially in the border and all those controls that are weak. So our worry is you will simply put a law, close an industry that is formal in the country, that actually pays taxes and everything, but you don't close the market. The other people who are manufacturing from out or under door, they will keep bringing, and before you know it, every coin goes out of the country through informal proliferations. So that is how we are looking at illicit. A honorable member is asking a question on the production. I want this committee to appreciate that one error that I would think was to get different chains of the alcohol and bring them together to solve a challenge that we have not clearly conceptualized. When we are talking about manufacturing, we don't manufacture for only the Ugandans. I wish we see this manufacturer as a manufacturer for the Ugandan market, regional market, and global market. Number two, I wish we could appreciate what happened some years in this house, in this parliament. Some member of parliament, when there was a challenge of, is it rape, and say, let's castrate all the men. Now, it's as if when we have a challenge with so many killings with a gun, we must close industries for guns. The whole problem is the other side. Why is it people are killing each other? How do we ensure that we are tamed, we go by the law? Why should I kill the other person? We look at that side. But now when this bill says I am going to reach to manufacturing, that's where we say it is hitting the economy. So our prayer is that we wish the bill, if it is concentrating on consumption, adverse effects of consumption, let it be a little bit be disaggregated from the manufacturing. The manufacturing component is completely different. But if we want omnibus, we are going to have problems and we are going to insist until we get clarity. This cannot happen. Then, Chair, There is... Yes. Chair, someone is asking, where do we put the drinking? Because when you use the simple formula of elimination, it means this bar or where alcohol is sold is adjacent to what? It is very simple. You are saying that take it in the middle of Lake Victoria or in the middle of a desert. Because residences should not be closed, supermarkets should not be closed, shops should not be closed, schools, all these amenities. Then where do we sell from? It is a very, very simple thing of saying close. And that is where I want to come to his ask. Are you saying we reject this? It is a very handsome suggestion. Actually, would be better if we take it back for reconsideration and redesign. I don't know how you call it. We reformulate this bill and it comes back when it is speaking specifically to the challenge that it intends to solve. Will it take Buweju out? Will this affect Buweju? So as long as there is simple sale, whether it is in Buweju or Karamoja, if there is sale, I think this bill affects everyone. And then he posed a question, Honorable, from Buweju, that could it be true, or there is a possibility that there is an arm that is not yet visible? I am using trends for this house and the research team of the house to tell the facts. I posed the first question. I said, why now? And me, as a simple researcher, I want to correlate the declining figures of the imported alcohol to this context. Why now? I'm trying to use it to answer now. I have said that since 1990, the late 2000s, it was moving up. We were importing. When we were importing, it was okay. But when we start to manufacture since 2012, we put industries on ground, we start to manufacture, then the trend for importation starts to come down. And then this is when we start to discuss the consumption. We view it as a deliberate attempt to put down the upcoming industries in Uganda such that the market continues to be open for the foreign ones. Because once we close this, either proliferation or don't get surprised when you see another agent come to say, let's revise the law, so long as the industries in Uganda have already closed. Trend number 2 is that we are seeing so many other industries that have been here relocating elsewhere. And we get afraid. Won't this also add to the number of industries that are leaving us? As manufacturers, we are concerned. So that's why I am saying, when we are viewing this, yes, let's view of the people in Buweju and even where I come from, but we again use bigger lenses to see the dynamics of global competition for this regional market and for the continental market, even the markets out there. Because one of our leading exporter of alcohol is about to overcapture the market in England. That is
clarification, Madam Chair. Thank you. I just want to get it from the presenter, where are you suggesting that the member who brought up this bill could be influenced?
I'm not saying that. And I don't know who brought it. I just discussed the papers. It was brought to us. But I'm just looking at the figures and trends and try to contextualize them. So, what I was speaking to is that one of our sugar factories, they have now diversified into alcohol, and they are exporting to, and competitively, by the way, to the market in the UK. Now, if you have been the master of the market in the UK, what happens? You need to use very well-grounded strategies to ensure that some of these markets are not threatened. I will want to say, my colleague will come to on the other issues, but we are willing to provide these substantiate with very good figures, because they are very clear on TradeCom.
Honorable Chair, I'll try and be brief. There are quite a number of questions. Whatever the Executive Director has touched, I will try and skip. Honorable Chair, you requested the definition of illicit alcohol, and the ED gave that. May I also add something that we have been trying to request government to treat this economy as one economy. There is not the economy of the formal and the economy of the informal. Every time we try to do that, we create problems. You have serious, and this is the dilemma of we economists, because we deal with figures. We try not to deal with sentiments, but with figures. You have 49% of your economy being informal. Sort that one out. This is the honorable. This is a people's house for your economy. Let's try to sort the informality of this country. Otherwise, we're not going to get out of that 53% debt to GDP ratio. Licenses. Chair, you asked for this. We have noted down. We will provide you a list of those. They are not on the paper, but we can quickly ensure that you get that. We will ensure it comes to you, Honorable Chair. The list of all the licenses, including the local licenses in those in the local districts. Those ones are now different. So, for example, you're aware that hotels have over 21 licenses for swimming pool, for the kitchen, they are all licenses, and you wonder it's just a hotel. So let us move on. Volume of alcohol allow us to give you that information. It's better we give you the information in written rather than in speech. Alcohol consumption trend in Uganda, I think we will give you the production minus exports. That can try and the documents to be signed, the Executive Director has already committed himself to sign those. Okay, the question was on negative contribution of consumption to the youth and meaningful production. Chair and members, some of us are lucky. And because of our positions, we should try and ensure that the people who are not as privileged as us are also supported. Some of us are lucky. We have worked on factory floors. I have been a finance manager of a factory. So I will tell you this from that perspective as well. If you have to work, you cannot consume alcohol and work. So the people who are drinking, most of the time, are on leave, on holiday, or simply don't have work. So the effect of you thinking that alcohol is causing people not to work, it may be the reverse. It is because they don't have work, that's why they are drinking. And Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, especially us who are men, I said I deal with figures. You know the frustration as men that we get when you have a wife at home and kids at home and you don't have money. And these are not Alan's words, these are researched papers. What is the effect? What is the frustration? What is, as Honorable Member said, what is the psychological and health effect of not having work on men? And there are research papers to that. So, is alcohol a panacea to that? Maybe some men think so. I'll go ahead. Rwanda comparison. Allow me to use the Honorable President's, His Excellency the President's comparison. Do we really want to compare ourselves with our Rwandese counterparts? For our own information, the size of Rwanda compared to Uganda is Masaka district plus a few other districts around. Do we want to do that really? It's so easy to regulate. It's a small economy as well. We have a very complicated economy here. So may we try to compare ourselves with the other economies which are nearly our size. Then, it is the same thing of alcohol sector contribution to the health and what is the motivation. The beautiful thing of working in a formal sector is, as the employer, you start by asking yourself, if something happens to my employees, what will happen to me? Let me start with something called the workman's compensation. Why do we pay workman's compensation? So that if something happens, I don't have to dig into the pocket, but rather the insurance company helps me to do that. Imagine you're working and your arm gets stuck in a machine, and I have to pay for the death, for the family, and everything. It's a huge cost. You're just traveling to work. Imagine the demonstrator yesterday was going to work. That would be tough. So the motivation is also to be able to have your employees not have a backward, a reverse effect on their pocket as well. Sanitizer during COVID, that is true. Actually, may I add to what the EDA said? I was on the committee which there were only 2 producers of sanitizer in this country when COVID began. We have over 45 producers of sanitizer. May I also add that Kachira Sugar Works is now a major producer of spirits and therefore part of your export bill because of COVID. So the effect, we have to be very careful. Now, radius 400, petrol stations, hotels. Allow me to say something, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members. Tourism is growing. Anything that curtails it, curtails our ability to get out of this debt to GDP ratio. We need their money. Now, allow me to say something. And I have learned one thing. I will never use my privileged positions to look down on other people. Some of us are lucky to have studied, lived, worked in the more advanced countries. Way much more advanced than our country. And I'm privileged to have been one of those. 12 good years in Europe, in a country called the Democratic Republic of Germany. At 8 o'clock in the morning, I will be served a bottle of beer and sausages. Are you trying to tell me we are more productive than them? And on a Monday morning, next to the cathedral, by the way, are we trying to say that we are more productive than them? And their economy is growing at 2.2%.
Yes.
Local brews, why?
Try to summarize, please. Try to summarize this clarification.
Thank you. The
The presenter is making very nice comparison of our country to Germany. And just before that, he denounced comparing Uganda to Rwanda. My understanding is that if we cannot compare ourselves to a smaller economy, we cannot compare ourselves to a very big economy. We need to define our own context as a country. Otherwise, if we start throwing up comparison to these bigger economies, I've been to Germany and I know the extent of development, production happening in Germany. The level of sensitization, especially when it comes to alcohol, we do not have it here. So throwing it here and trying to convince this committee that it's justifiable, I do not understand. Thank you.
May you proceed?
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, there were 22 questions, Honorable Chair.
Honorable Chair, clarification. I think my dear friend Honorable here didn't get the yes. Sorry, Chair. I think he was not comparing the economy. I don't think that he was really doing that.
The President will speak for himself.
Yeah.
Can you proceed?
Thank you, Chair. I was dealing with the issue of productivity. And that is what I was asking. Are we more productive than them? But let's continue, Honorable Chair. There's this issue that we need to understand, that some of us need to ask ourselves, Honorable Chair. What are we really trying to cure? We have failed to understand that part. And my executive director has belabored to ask, what are we trying to cure? And I'll give an example. Honorable Chair, I am a Muganda man. The day I try to bring a fellow man to my parents, they will throw me out of the clan. And I was part of the team which supported that law. And what was the effect? We are all witnessing it. And we are crying. And the part of the sector which is crying because of that bill is the health sector. The support to the health sector is dwindling. What I'm trying to understand is, must we use everything, every excuse to legislate ourselves into oblivion? Are there things we can just simply say, human regulation, please regulate yourselves? Must we really regulate everything? Must we? Because the next time we are going to regulate people who are eating too much. You're eating too much. Stop eating. Myself, I'm now beginning to bear a nice stomach, which I hate, but I'm asking myself, should we regulate that eating much?
Honorable Harriet.
Next, Chair.
Can you conclude?
We need to regulate that one as well.
Can you conclude?
Yes, Honorable Chair.
Members
It's taking
are
alcohol
your
from
issues very passionately. It's
Yes.
becoming too passionate. So
it's
you
taking
need to
alcohol
conclude.
from home an issue. And an appendix to that question was, do I have experience or is it an observation? I repeat, I am an economist. And the beautiful thing with an economist, you read and read and read and read and read. Otherwise, you'll cease to be one. And the best thing you read, figures. And COVID has shown us that. Lastly, this driving around Kampala, I'll leave it to you, Honorable Chair, to judge on that, whether you need to benchmark on that. Thieves, rapists in the same direction. I was asked a question. Is the whole entire UMA behind this, or is the medical sector not part of this? Honorable Chair.
Do you have a medical sector in UMA?
Yes. Pharmaceutical is part of our sectors. Honorable Chair.
What was their input into your submission that you presented?
Let me conclude on that. Honorable Chair, we are human beings. Communicable diseases are lifestyle diseases. Honorable Chair, the issues of cancers and all these things are still being researched. The next thing we are going to hear, Honorable Chair, we are going to be having, and if I'm not mistaken, Honorable Chair, what is coming to your committee soon, or to this August House, soon rather than later, is a bill on health tax. And we are going to try and control sugar, oils, and all these things that can cause health issues to us. And we're asking ourselves, really? So I should take your indiscipline and tax you for your indiscipline. If you eat a lot, I'm about to tax you. The mandazis, those things there have sugar in them. Let's tax the sugar. Let us tax the meat. Let us tax everything that causes us an effect. Are we really going to go that direction? The truth is, many things cause cancer. Many things. Or are alleged. Thank you, Executive Director. Honorable Chair, I'll close with this one for us to go home. We closed the whole West Nile economy. All of it. For those of you who are older than me, know that West Nile was known for one thing: tobacco. Ugandans are not smokers. But we went ahead and put a law, and we drove out the whole entire tobacco sector out of this country. There are now only 2 or 3 companies. And what did the Kenyans say? Thank you very much. Please come. And now, the industry is operating in Kenya comfortably. The whole of our brothers and sisters in West Nile lost all their jobs. Really. I still want to go back to the Baganda saying, Eyatuloga.
Thank you, presenter. 2 last things. Can you give us examples of industries that could have moved out of Uganda because of our unfavorable business environment, especially related to alcohol industry?
Chair,
Do you have examples?
Yes,
outline?
we have an example, and we would want to treat individual companies with the privacy that it calls, but we can give that list to the chair. Since this is an open committee discussion, we may not be able to discuss.
When can we have that?
As we submit all our papers, because we have the list with us.
When can we have this paper?
By close of business today, Chair.
Okay. Then what is your membership as UMA? Total membership of UMA?
The total membership, we stand at 1,000 for 2023. Subscribing members, 1,750.
Then alcohol industry, what is the component of that total number in the alcohol industry under UMA?
There are 67.
67 out
Yes.
of 1,000?
Yes.
Did you say 1,000?
1,750 is the total membership.
And 60?
65 are the members that renewed
alcohol
their
industry.
Yes, in 2023.
Okay.
Chair, I'd also asked information on the impact of the regulation on the sizes of the alcohol packaging, and also there have been several taxes that have been increased, especially on excise duty on different alcohol products. So we'll want you to share with us a report on that, and if there are industries that are affected, you give us that information itself. And it will be good to share with us a trend of the number of alcohol industries from the time that before the regulation and up to this point in time where we are also discussing this bill, so that we know the trend. Yes, if it came in 5 years ago, then give us the information 5 years before, and from that time up to the current status. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we exporting alcohol?
Yes, Chair.
We want you to give submission to us on what we are importing and what we are exporting.
Yes.
And we also want to know the raw materials we are importing in the industry for alcohol, and so that we are able to compare what we are importing and what we are exporting as a country.
Thank you. Go away. I think if it will be then fair enough to give you also the raw materials of what we are using to produce the alcohol, not importing only, but actually local as well.
Of our export and imports in comparison, we need to compare.
Chair, thank you, Chair. In his presentation at the beginning, he kind of indicated that there are some invisible hands pushing this bill. My understanding is that probably companies dealing in alcohol from outside. And I would not like this mentioned in open manner. Could he also include these people?
Can you clarify?
Thank you.
Can you submit to us in writing on that particular issue, or you want to clarify now?
I would want to clarify that I said we want to use the figures to explain that hypothesis. And if the figure, the trend of the figure makes sense to this committee, it is incumbent on you. If you want to interrogate further, it will have opened your eyes.
Submit to us in writing on that also.
Thank you.
Latest by close of business tomorrow.
Madam Chair.
Can we move to the next? Yes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'd like to appreciate the presenter for a very good presentation. By the time he has been using that Uganda about logo, we were bewitched. Uganda is a very beautiful country and nobody bewitched us. So I'm requesting that you withdraw that statement. Nobody bewitched us. Thank you.
Please, your name for record purpose.
Are you sure?
For your name.
Because we have which doctors around?
I'm Dr. Joseph Ryonga, MP from Western, member of the Health Committee.
Thank you. Honourable members who came late.
Chair, I just wanted to, maybe as they interrogate the figures, I wanted also to give them information that currently Uganda is leading in terms of alcohol consumption in Africa, 12.21 liters per year per capita. And also we are number 5 globally in terms of alcohol consumption. So you can interrogate that together with the invisible hand and get more insight. Thank you.
Thank you. We need all those, and we want to also see our production capacity. We are consuming to that extent, but are we producing all that we are consuming, or we're importing more of what is being consumed to that extent? We need to analyze that very well. So I think members, there being no any other question to the presenters from UMA, we want to thank you so much for coming for this committee sitting. Please comply with the request that we have made for submissions of documents that the committee will need to continue considering this bill. We thank you so much for sparing time to come and appear before us. Otherwise, with this, I can request you to take leave as we proceed to listen to Casita and the next company. I am not going to request any member to accompany you out because the meeting is continuing. You have a member here who wishes to be part of you, but I'm not granting him the permission. Let the other side come in, so we proceed. Casita, the floor is yours. You're going to proceed to give submission to this committee based on the invitations that you received from our clerk. But I am going to regulate your presentation to take a maximum of 10 minutes for members to give their comments and concerns. We still have 3 other stakeholders that we should attend to them. So may you proceed, but you already introduced yourselves, I think. Proceed to give your presentation to the committee.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and Honorable Committee members. My name once again is Abel Mwesije, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer, Casita, Uganda.
and I'm the head of the delegation this morning. Right, Honorable Chair, before you and honorable members, we've laid our position paper for review. But to begin with, we want to appreciate this opportunity and for always considering us as vital stakeholders, especially when it comes to policy discussions, especially trade-related. Chair, I want to begin with a concern that from the business community, we tend not to understand the intention and direction of this bill, and this has really brought a lot of mixed feelings and reactions. And secondly, I want to appreciate all the other stakeholders that you've already engaged with. Most of the submissions may not be new, but I would want to first bring to your attention, Honorable Chair and Honorable members, that we are proud to be before the committee where we have trade, tourism and industry, especially those, because that's our line ministry. When such a bill comes and we realize that the alcohol import bill over the time, just as our UMA counterparts have mentioned, it has drastically reduced. And our intention as Casita, Uganda, is to have a promotion of import substitution, promote the Bubu policy amongst our people. Let this be on record that for long, the President, His Excellency, has actually been on record for faulting Casita with a misperception that we are actually promoting importation of various things. Now, at a time when over 200,000 members of ours, our total membership is around 3 million, but over 200,000 are directly or indirectly involved in the alcohol sector. Honorable Chair, we want to mention that we are not pleased with this bill, especially the fact that of all the sectors that have been invaded by foreign investors, this is the only sector that has been housing a high percentage of local players at all levels. We have not registered a number of Chinese, Indians, and all those players in this sector. It's largely by local players. And it is the same sector that now we are targeting to eliminate. What is the intention? Two, when you look at the revenues, right now with the cut in the donor funding, we are struggling. And instead of promoting business, promoting trade, promoting revenue generating sectors, we ourselves, whether there is global or local influence or not, but some of these are really so vital. If we've realized that the alcohol sector is having a direct contribution of over 1.7 million jobs. And when I talk of 1.7 million jobs, as Casita, I don't talk as only a manufacturer, but my membership ranges from the manufacturer, the distributor, this retailer, the farmer who is producing the grain that is supplying to these factories, because I am multi-sector. And with these direct jobs, we are looking at more than 7.1 million beneficiaries. Every shop you get to, if it is a bar, for example in Kampala, from our members, the Bar Owners Association, we have over 26,000 bars and nightclubs in Kampala alone. And these are only registered ones. And we have over 34,000 bars, entertainment, nightclubs up country. And I mentioned these are only registered ones. So there are quite many that are actually not registered with our membership. Now, When you look at the composition of this entire sector, the larger population are the youth and the women. And so when we look at the employment factor, we are this bill is greatly going to affect those two categories, the youth and the women. And what's the reason? The youth are educated. After university, they have nothing to do, so they have to look for what is actually available. Honorable Chair, let me get to the bill with the 10 minutes that we have. Section 1, Part B. The Act does not apply to the manufacture of native liquor for domestic use or traditional ceremonies. And what is the implication in here? I'm on page 3. We are looking at this bill presenting a high risk of increased illicit trade. And for your information, illicit trading in the alcohol sector is standing at 65%. 65% of the products that are on the market are actually illicit. I'm glad my UMA counterparts have explained what illicit is. And so this then means that the presence of illicit alcohol in the market is bound to lead to a loss of revenue for government and legitimate alcohol producers as well. On top of that, we are looking at, because once the illicit trading increases on page 4, there is then an increased unfair competition, especially due to cheap prices, because whenever you're not regulated, then, I mean, you're a king in price making. We are looking at other challenges that are going to come with this uncontrolled or illicit trading, especially taking in the fact that most of the locally brewed that is not regulated is always in uncontrolled environments. Most of the consumers, they run the risk of developing health problems, as it might be on record. Now, as Casita, our recommendation to this is to actually have a thorough review of the bill so that at least it is focused on regulating or promoting legal trading and avoiding illicit in totality. We have also given the justification because we have bodies that do regulate. UNBS do certifies and checks the standards. Now, if actually certain of the standards that they have, which poses a public threat. Honorable Chair and members, in the interest of time, when you look at Section 2 of the object of the Act, it says it is to prohibit the sale of alcohol drinks to the persons under the age of 18 years and specified persons, and C is to provide measures to eliminate illicit in alcohol drinks. But then this Section 2 contravenes with Section 1, especially on Part C, because if you're eliminating a certain part of the goods that are also manufactured, that is the traditional, for ceremonies and other areas, you're not aware of the standard status that they have. You're not aware of where they are made from. Now, instead of focusing on regulating them, you're again saying, I am going to fight illicit trade, but with these that are legitimate, that are already compliant. It doesn't really make any sense, because you already know them. Look for those that you're not aware of. Look for those that you cannot trace and regulate them, add them on. Also on Part B, we've seen a lot of exaggeration in the bill and duplication. For example, in the alcohol content code, whether on adverts and everything, or even on labels, I think this disclaimer is there on not for sale to persons under the age of 18. So we are wondering, is the bill trying to introduce something new that is not existing? Chair, when you look at Section 5, which is about licensing. I'm glad that we have the Committee on Trade, and they are the ones that are responsible for business regulations. Most of the legit businesses, they all have regulations differently. But the most notable one is the trading license. Today, if you're to get a trading license, you must be having a TIN number. You must be having a health, if it is a bar, you must present a health report. There is a lot. That itself is regulation. Okay? And it is working. Now, instead of strengthening it, why are we then creating multiple licenses? For what reason? And so I've actually mentioned that in respect to Section 5, Section 16, up to 13, because all that is about licensing. Honorable Chair and members at large, I would want to encourage you to interest yourselves in knowing that the more regulations, especially these duplications, they actually call for more unnecessary costs on business. What then happens? Any cost that is embedded unnecessarily, it is then transferred to the final consumer. But, I mean, this is a liberal economy. You will take what you can afford. So, if I'm already compliant, I have my trading licenses, I'm compliant with the Ministry of Health, I'm compliant with the RA. Now, the more licenses that I'm going to pay for, it means that my products are going to be more expensive. What then will happen? People are going to run away from us who are compliant. They will go to the bufundas. And so, are we trying to control the illicit trading as per Section 2? Definitely no. Honorable Chair, let me get to Section 14. I'm on page 9. Section 14, on time of sale of alcoholic drinks, which restricts licensees from selling alcohol drinks or native liquor before the hour of 17 hours and or after 22 hours on working days, and 12 hours and after 00 hours on public holidays and weekends. Honorable Chair, even before I get into the details, we need to understand that we have different behavioral changes, and there are factors why they do happen. My counterparts have already mentioned that setting these hours is actually uncalled for. We've realized that where we spend most of our time determines the behavior that we go for. So, I do not know whether the pushers of this bill have in mind that we have workers who have leave days. I don't know whether they understand that people have their leisure time. People have different challenges. And so, when you say before 5, and you have not put into consideration the sectors that the clients that are contributing to the growth of this sector, I think it is wrong. Because here, it is just open, but you're targeting, the sky. Okay, we are here in Parliament. I wouldn't want to believe that there's anyone who really can have time to go to the bar at this moment. But now we are going. There are people, there are times when you may be off duty, and you're either in your leisure time, you need to have a supermarket open at a time that it is convenient for you. You surely cannot dictate. So we find this in direct contradiction of some of the business regulations that we have. 2, the direct effect that we have here, because if this is implemented, it means that the business hours will have to reduce. When they reduce, what then happens? We realize a decline in sales, because our businesses are actually working on your conveniences. Decline in sales, overall revenues, and profitability. When all this do reduce, what then do we experience? Tax revenues getting lower. Remember, we've started on currently where we are. day by day, URA is getting into deficits. Why? Because the budget cuts from donors have really affected us. Now, instead of empowering locally the business people so we can finance our budgets, we are again ourselves doing something that is detrimental. Honorable Chair, I would want to pose to you that